Please welcome to the stage Kevin Okel and Sonia Wisniewska.
Hello, everyone. As you may have heard on main stage, big things are coming.
Right, which is why we're here to talk about the advancements that we've made to Shopify's online store editing experience. But before we do that, I'd like to share some context on where we've been in the past and the path that we've taken to get where we are before we go into too much detail on the road ahead. So,
Got it.
over the years, we've seen quite the evolution in our store design tools. And this is what Shopify's theme editor looked like when I joined the company about 7 years ago. Yeah. So pretty much this was just a big mess of form fields. As you can see, there was no preview, which means that you were guessing at what each setting affected, and you constantly had to switch back and forth between browser tabs if you wanted to see the effect that it would have on your live site. Yeah, you can take pictures, I'll give you a second. And then we introduced a preview. Everything else stayed pretty much the same, except you got to define your settings with JSON instead of HTML. And then in 2016, we introduced sections. Now, this editing paradigm was and still is limited to the homepage for reasons that we'll dig into in a bit. But the important thing to note is that this was a huge step forward for us, and it's actually the basis for the improvements that we're going to announce today.
Thanks for that history lesson,
Oh,
Kevin.
you're so welcome.
Let's take a deeper look at what role this tool plays in the lives of our merchants today. So it's no surprise that almost every single merchant that signs up for Shopify has an online store. And not only is it our most lucrative sales channel, it's also our merchant's lifeblood. I mean, it's not like Kevin and I are biased or anything, but it's definitely the most important. Another thing that differentiates this tool from other parts of Shopify is that every single merchant has to use it. It's one of the first steps they take, their first interaction with our platform. And we've invested so much time and effort into this update because a merchant's online store is really the one place where they retain complete control. The online store is the face of their business, it's a reflection of their own personality, and it's usually the first proof of concept they have when taking on their entrepreneurial journey. They come to Shopify for the opportunity to realize their vision for their brand and create their ideal customer experience. When they sign up, they feel a slew of emotions: nervous, hopeful, excited, kind of like Kevin and I on stage today.
Right now, yeah.
They're fired up to build their store, and they envision a future empire. But then they're hit square in the face with today's reality. It's actually a lot harder to create that dream storefront than they thought it would be. And that's because today, they don't really have the right tools to do so, which is what we're here to introduce. When we started unpacking this challenge, we knew that it wasn't going to be enough to start screwing on some new features to our existing theme editor. We need to take a step back and understand the challenges that merchants face today when building their online stores. We then proceeded to design tools to address those needs and completely rethought how all those pieces should fit together. So, without further ado, let's chat about the 5 new features that completely change our online store design experience. And that's sections, master pages, starting points, content portability, and drafts. I'll pause for the photo. Take it away, Kevin.
Gladly. Okay, well, this first one I hope is pretty obvious. Merchants need a way to tell their story. They need a way to showcase their products. And in order to do that, they need a way to add their content where it's the most relevant. Ever since we announced sections in 2016, we've been constantly asked, why not everywhere? In fact, extending the content creation paradigm from the homepage to all parts of the online store has been our #1 feature request since we introduced sections. But it's not enough to just take sections the way they exist today and start slapping them on every page. Now, there are a number of steps that we needed to overcome And we'll dig into what those are in a bit, but the point is that we now have the right foundation and the right groundwork in place in order to start delivering on that feature request, so introducing sections everywhere. Now, one of the great things about content sections is that it's a familiar paradigm for anybody who's used sections on the home page. You just navigate to the page you'd like to edit, you add a section, you edit it as you normally would. There's no huge learning curve, just the ability to add sections to pages. This also opens up the possibility to create compelling experiences on any page, unlocking things like special landing pages for campaigns. And all of this without merchants needing to edit a single line of code or make a concession on their vision for their store. And even better, eventually merchants will be able to add apps the same way that they add sections. Like I said, it's not enough to just put sections on every page. If it were that simple, I hope we would have done this some time ago. We need to keep in mind that with more capability comes more overhead. So we've endeavored to remove as much of that overhead as possible. And one of the ways that we're going to do that is through a feature we call master pages. Master pages give merchants the ability to edit their store at scale. Master pages are a way to define content that will appear on multiple pages. So let's say you want to add our product reviews app to all of your product pages. You just edit that product page master, and you're done. Now, we also know that flexibility is super important to merchants, which is why we're also introducing master page overrides. This will give merchants a way to change content inherited from a master page on a single resource. And it won't stop there. Initially, we're limiting master pages to one per page type, meaning that there will be one for products, one for collections, one for blog posts, and so on. But in the future, we'll open up to merchants the ability to create and manage their own master pages, giving them more control and more flexibility. And in order to give merchants the flexibility that they need, without impacting their workflows or compromising the aesthetic diversity of themes, we're introducing a third and new type of section. This is called the frame section. Frame sections are part of themes and exist across all pages and all page types. They basically include anything that you would want to show on every page of your website. Think of a header or a sidebar or a footer.
So that covers sections, now in all pages, as well as master pages. The next feature we're introducing also removes overhead from the merchant and enables partners to create more robust and valuable themes. This is starting points. Starting points provide merchants with an easy way to leverage sections the way the developer intended, taking the frustration out of page creation. A merchant simply selects the appropriate starting point, and then all that's left to do is to populate the page with their own content. After that page is created, all sections therein are then completely customizable depending on a merchant's unique needs. Starting points gives theme developers a way to showcase their designs and create value for merchants by addressing specific needs through custom page design. Next topic is content storage. If you work with our platform today, you know that all of merchants' shop content is stored within the themes that they use. Sure, pages have a simple, rich text editor that will carry content from theme to theme, but it's so limiting that merchants usually need to resort to custom theme templates if they want to achieve anything beyond a simple paragraph. This makes updating their store extremely difficult and labor-intensive. Something as simple as adopting the next version of the theme that they already use means recreating an entire website. And the same problem exists with homepage sections today and would only be compounded by adding sections to all pages. Imagine going through the effort of using our new tools to add rich content to all of your product pages, only to realize that you need to redo all of that work if you ever wanted to switch your theme. Trapping merchant content in a theme leads to a less than intuitive experience for our merchants, and that's because to them, that content shouldn't belong to a page or a theme. That content should just belong to their products.
So this is why we're introducing an all-new online store content schema. So essentially what we've done is we've taken all the plausible settings associated with a content element, and we've standardized them in a way that's applicable to the vast majority of use cases, which means that a merchant can make their store go from what you see on the left to what you see on the right. That was my right and your left, the other way around. But practically speaking, they can do this by just changing their theme. Now, what does this mean for the way that we actually build themes? Well, let's take a look at the image content type. So, yes, you can take photos. Here is an example of markup that we would see for like a slide in a slideshow. On the left, we have the legacy image picker setting, and on the right, we have the image content type. As you can see, the markup is more succinct, but there's also a difference in the settings that are output. The new image content type will automatically generate 3 settings in the UI, not just the image picker. On the left, we have an example of how we'd approach an image setting today. This simply consists of one element, it's the image picker. And on the right, we see what it would look like in the new way. Now, in order to make that content portable between themes, we need to store all of the information that would be associated with that element in the majority of use cases. And this means making sure that all themes are able to not only display the image, but any auxiliary information associated with it. In this case, that means also accepting a caption by way of a rich text setting and a link by way of a URL setting. Now, every time the image content type is called, we'll display all 3 settings that are associated with that one image, and the theme will need to be able to digest and output all 3 setting values. So all of this data is stored within the resource, not within the theme, meaning that the data stays intact even if the theme is unable to output all of the setting values associated with a content type. So these are the first content types that'll be available. It's important to note that not all content types will have multiple settings. Of all of the ones listed here, there are only 3 that actually have more than 1 setting. Now, I also think it's important to note that while we are standardizing content settings, we're still leaving a ton of flexibility open to themes to style that content the way that they see fit. So themes remain unique, meaning that presentation settings will continue to be unstandardized. Okay, so we've covered content types, but what about the sections that are comprised of them? How do we go about making sure that every theme is able to display every combination of content? Well, it's actually not that complicated. Today, themes already share a lot of the same sections that accept a lot of the same blocks. This means that many sections will be compatible organically, but in the few cases where that's not actually possible, we have a simple solution, and we call it the default section. As long as there's one section in a theme that can output every content type, all combinations of content can be rendered. So the design might not be optimized for every combination, but it will be able to display them. And in the event that a section isn't able to display a certain content type, there's no harm to the merchant. As I said before, the data is never deleted, so whenever they switch back to a theme that does support that content type, their data will still be there. And as a result, theme switching becomes a painless, and dare I say, enjoyable experience, giving merchants a way to test different aesthetics and make frequent updates to their stores with very minimal overhead.
So that's the content model. Last but not least, switching themes isn't the only thing we're making painless. To complement this, merchants will now have a safe place to try out bigger, bolder changes. They can experiment with a new look and feel for their store and prepare changes ahead of time to publish later. Merchants will no longer have to duplicate their theme and keep track of fragmented pages and settings when preparing for a product launch, a seasonal promotion, or even a rebrand. The draft feature will enable merchants to make edits to the content and aesthetics of their new and existing online store pages and mass publish them when they're ready. No need to start from scratch or compromise the user experience of their live site. Drafts will foster better content creation with a workflow that encourages planned edits and lowers the barrier to larger site modifications and deep customizations. Empowering merchants with this safe and efficient workflow will encourage them to keep their online store current and up to date giving their customers some of the best shopping experiences on the web. And all of these features add up to a completely new online store design experience, one that has been optimized to meet for the most important merchant workflows. We've made sure to design it in a way that meets the needs of a diverse range of merchants and their businesses. And that's the most important distinction between us and other platforms. We are really focused on building this for entrepreneurs. This is not a website builder with tacked on commerce functionality. Entrepreneurs want a platform that's trusted by a community of hundreds of thousands of them. And that's the reason why they sign up for Shopify. It's because they want tools that are really built for them, tools that will help them build a business. And this was the driving force behind the features we built and the decisions we've made. So, what now?
How about I tell you what now? The good news is that upon launch, existing merchants and new merchants will both get the new user interface. To adopt the rest of the functionality, at least most of it, they will be required to take some steps in some cases. So there are a few ways existing merchants can adopt new features. One way is to download the latest updated version of the theme that they're already using, or they could get a new theme that supports sections. So this might be the most popular adoption path for the average merchant, but it's not the only way. See, we've always prized ourselves in making sure that everything we build for online store is a progressive enhancement of what's already existed, and this is no different. See, this is where things get really interesting. See, there's no such thing as a sections everywhere theme or a legacy theme. All themes can technically support all of this new functionality. The right files and directories just need to be added to them, and they will support sections. Themes can support both legacy templates and section-based master pages. This means that you can upgrade themes progressively based on a merchant's needs. So let's say you're working with a large merchant that really only focuses on their product page experience. There's no need to update their entire theme or build a completely new theme. Just add the right files to support sections on product pages, and that's all you need to do. So you may wonder what this actually means for you, and it really is dependent on how you work with our platform. We're excited to see how you leverage these features, given your diverse business needs and merchants. So we're going to run through a few example scenarios, and that should give you a better idea.
For the partners that actually spend their day-to-day in our merchants admins, we hope that this update is able to make your lives easier the same way it will our merchants. Whether this means an easier handoff after you set up a store, or the opportunity to spend more time out of the code yourself. You know, only if you're into that.
Yeah.
For those that create apps for our merchants, there's short-term action items and long-term benefits to look forward to. We know that the storefront app installation process is one of the main tripping points for our merchants, regardless of their level of experience on our platform. The current app installation process involves adding code to multiple theme files, which is confusing to say the least, and is known to break storefronts. At launch, when the structure of theme files change, app partners that have apps that rely on those files to run will have to update their apps to ensure that they will work for all merchants. And as we've mentioned, later this year, we'll be introducing app sections that allow merchants to more easily install your apps, reducing support debt all around, and giving merchants a better app installation experience. And finally, for the developers that create themes for our merchants, we're really asking for your help as our partners. To leverage the power of sections everywhere, you'll have to update your themes to support them and make sure they adhere to the new content schema. We're confident that this launch will enable you to provide more value to merchants than ever by simplifying the theme editing experience and putting far more customization control in their hands. We also believe that this will contribute to a long-term reduction in theme-related support required from you guys, so you can spend more time doing what you like to do. And for all of you here today, and all of those watching this recording from the future,
Especially future people.
we wanted to make sure that you were the first to know, because although we know that we're making a big change for our merchants, we really believe that it's you that will take this update to the next level. Whether it's acting as a support to merchants who want to sectionize their store, creating best in market themes that allow merchants to achieve incredible storefronts, or optimizing your own workflows in a way that allow you to take on that one extra special project a month. We're hopeful that you're as excited about these changes as we are, and will act as our ally in getting our merchants excited and on board. And together, let's introduce a completely new store design experience on Shopify. Thank you.
But wait, there's more. Okay, some housekeeping, logistical things. If you want to chat further, we have office hours on both days if they're not already booked up. If they are booked up, you can reach out to me. My name's Kevin Okel. You'll be able to access the developer preview starting today, and you can hit the developer drop-in center if you need help with that. Our user experience research team is also running a feedback session on online store experiences, in the discussion zone tomorrow, so check that out. And following Unite, you'll hear more from us leading up to the wider merchant availability. Right now, we're going to kick off our question and answer session, so we'd like to invite our engineering lead, Thibaut, up to the stage.
Thank you.
I don't need this now, do I?
I'll take it.
Thank you.
Yeah, if anyone, I think this thing is live, so if questions come to mind, just let us know, because we do have a decent amount of time. I'm just going to go chronological. You guys are ready?
Let's do this.
Okay. Can you write to sections through the API?
Yes.
Get more detail now.
Yeah, you want to elaborate on that?
Yes. It's actually a resounding yes, because we've hit our deadline and it's been a lot of work, but from today you can write sections through our API. If you go into our documentation for the online store REST API, you'll see there's a new link in the sidebar that links to all the documentation for all of the APIs that we're introducing. There's obviously a lot of new functionality that's being added. We're not just talking about sections, but we have the concept of master pages and overrides. All of this will be available through the API, and you can already try those features through the developer preview that you can try out in your development stores.
Cool, and that question was from Finbar. Thank you. Next one. From Joe. When can I finally stop using WordPress on a subdomain for content to go with Shopify as the storefront? Will sections fix the blog/CMS?
Will sections fix the blog? Fix is a fun word. So we are extending the content creation paradigm to the blog post pages as well, so you can look forward to that. One of the obstacles that we ran into when we started exploring this particular area is that long-form content writing is not the same way that you would design a page, right? You're not going to design a blog post by saying, like, cool, I'm going to have a paragraph, and then I'll insert, like, an image section, then I'll write another paragraph. Like, no, you pretty much just, like, write your story, then you add some media, because that feels a lot more organic. So we've worked on a content type called the post content type that should help with that as well.
Yeah, and maybe one point to clarify is that when we say sections everywhere, we literally mean sections everywhere. So that means your cart page, your search page, all of those pages will be powered by sections. And the merchant will be able to add additional sections to all of those pages.
Did you guys hear that? Because I just heard the mic kick in.
Oh, yeah, me as well.
Okay, cool, okay. Good.
Okay. React versus Vue. Does it make sense for the uninvested? Is this question from the session? For review. Got it. Perfect. Back to our usual programming. From Andre, will sections be attached to certain page types or templates?
Oh, yes. Yes, they will. So there are a bunch of different types of sections. I'll let Thibaut go into details on this, but we do have a type of section called the page section, which is basically a canonical section for any page type, meaning that there is a section on all product pages that will display the product page information inherited from core. This isn't deletable. This is basically the reason why the page exists. So that is one type of page type specific section. We're also giving you the ability to define which sections will be available on certain pages. So if you only want a special section to appear on a special type of page, you can do that as well. Did I miss anything?
That's pretty good. So it starts with taking your templates and turning them into a section. So we still have a concept of, like Kevin mentioned, a canonical section that is the main content for each type of page. So you'll have a section for your product pages, a section for your cart page, search page, etc. That's one type of section. And then we have a separate concept of what we call content sections, which are those sections that the merchant can add to any page of their online stores. And then some of those can be limited to only be added to certain types of pages.
Great. Next.
It's hard for me to move with this thing. I'm afraid it's going to fall off. Sorry.
From Stuart.
Okay.
Are snippets being phased out? What does that mean for creating small reusable pieces of code that may need to be used across a whole theme? And that goes to Thibaut.
All right, let's do this. So snippets have always been a bit of a tricky feature for us to support because it introduces a lot of limitations on some of the functionality that we want to introduce. Snippets can create dependencies between files, and that has made it hard for us to, for example, bring better tools to upgrade themes across the board because we have apps and merchants and partners that are making changes to the theme, and it's difficult for us to resolve any kind of conflict between what those changes are and what the new version of the theme is in a safe manner. And then we're also looking at a lot of performance improvements that, due to the very dynamic nature of snippets, are impossible for us to bring to our merchants today. So what we're going to try with these new section files is to remove the ability to use snippets on the Shopify platform, but we're envisioning that we can bring an equivalent functionality in our developer tools so that you're still able to use those partials and reuse those pieces of code in your theme, in your local environment, without pushing those files to the Shopify platform. Anything to add, Kevin?
No, I think you got it.
Cool.
Good job.
Thanks.
Cool.
Okay. Another one from Andre. Will merchants be able to have different sections on different products, for example, outside of master pages?
Yeah, so you can still add sections to individual pages. Basically, you have like these 3 levels of editing. You have the frame section at the top, which is across the entire site. Then you have master pages, which go across an entire page type. Then you also have the ability to add sections to an individual page. So you can have a set of sections that are on a master page across all your product pages. Then you can also go in and add sections individually to your product pages as well, so they can have a more bespoke experience. When we do have the ability for merchants to create and manage their own master pages, you could essentially set up 2 types of master pages if you wanted to split the content in 2 equal chunks. But yeah, there's a lot of flexibility into the level at which you can make content appear on a given page type.
From Austin on sections. Will the merchant still choose a product template on the product admin page? Does a product template equal a master page?
See, that's a tricky question, because yes, you can if the theme supports templates. Like I said, we're not phasing anything out. Themes can still support templates and master pages. So if that theme is coded in such a way that it is leveraging templates, you can still select a template and leverage the power of templates. However, if you opt into using master pages to render that page type, you can no longer select a template to render that page. You need to adhere to using a master. Did I get that right?
Yeah, I think we're actually looking at maintaining the ability to select templates even when you are using a master page, because the question alluded to this, and it's a way to see it. Master pages is the equivalent of alternate templates done in a way that allows the merchant to customize the content through the UI rather than through the code. So there's a lot of similarities between master pages and templates. It basically defines how the page should be rendered, whether it's through the template, which going forward we're going to see more as the custom code use case, or through the master page, which will give the merchant the ability to customize everything through the UI.
From Caleb, is portable content accessible across different stores?
Not immediately. I know that we will need a way for merchants to export their content. Like right now you have a mechanism to do that, and that's a theme. So hooray. But yes, we realize that content export will be a thing. So there will be a mechanism for you to get that content and upload it to another store. However, we don't have plans immediately to allow a one-to-one transfer without first getting that content downloaded.
If you're an app developer, that's perfect use case for an app. As I mentioned at the beginning, we already have an API for downloading all of this content, and now the good news is also that because a lot of this data is going to be more structured, it should be easier for apps to manipulate this data across different stores.
From Damien, will there be a specific section of the App Store for those apps that bring these widgets that can be dropped within the editor? I feel like that's a good idea, but I don't. We'd have to ask the apps team.
Yeah, I think like we're super open to suggestions on market differentiation for these types of apps. Like we do have a storefront apps section of the App Store, not section like theme section, but an actual section on the App Store. So we can leverage that, but we're also looking into ways that we could make it more clear to merchants which apps support app sections and which are more different types of storefront apps that might not necessarily require the merchant to interact with page editing. So yeah, if you have suggestions, hit me up. I will relay it to our apps team, and all will be well in the world.
From Paul, will there be a limit on draft themes that a merchant can have at a given time? What about plus merchants?
Yeah, so something to clarify there, and maybe it's just phrasing, is themes are not drafts. Drafts are a feature of the online store independent of themes. Themes are one of the things that could be part of a change set within a draft. And there is a limit. Initially, we'll be limiting it to your live site. That is one editing paradigm where you can amass changes and then publish them, and another draft area, just one to begin. Conflict resolution is a very, very tricky thing that we need to understand some real world use cases before we can attempt to tackle it. So we'll initially be launching with one draft that you can have for any shop, and then we will eventually add many drafts to that.
Okay, these questions are just keep rolling in, so I'm gonna try and speed around through a few of them. From Paul, we hear a lot of merchants have issues with their themes after uninstalling apps. Will app sections help solve this by cleaning up code during uninstall?
Yes, the app installation problem is quite a tricky one. Obviously, it's been one of the fundamentals of the Shopify platform that you are able to customize the entire source code of your site, and we don't want to change that. But what we're looking to do is to create more structure within the themes, such that when an app embeds itself within a theme, that it does so in a manner that the merchant still has control over. So that's what we are going to start to bring to the platform with app sections, is the ability for an app to say, oh, I want to make this section available for the merchant to add within the editor. And when they do so, due to how we are encapsulating the code that runs within the section file, there'll be a guarantee that this code cannot interfere with other sections that are in the theme. And also to the UI, there'll be a way for the merchant to toggle that section on and off, etc. So it's not the solution to all of our problems, but it is a major step on the way to making app installation better. And we obviously have plans to continue to work on this problem going forward.
What did I say about a speed round?
Speed round,
Sorry, I
yeah.
missed that.
20 seconds max. Okay.
Who's Max?
Currently, the admin can get quite slow with a lot of sections. Has this been addressed with the new experience?
Yes.
Cool.
So we're actually in the process of, and one of the engineering challenges with this project was to create a foundation that allows us to support like thousands upon thousands of sections, right? Because we're talking about sections on thousands of product pages. So the way the editor works is quite a bit different, the new editor from the current one, and we're hopeful that it's going to be a lot faster for those large themes and large merchants going forward. The good thing is we're not storing all of this data in a JSON file anymore, as we are with all of the sections that live in the themes today. All of the sections will be attached to the various pages and master pages that the online store contains, and that should give both the editor and all of our apps a nice speed up.
Sweet.
Sorry, that was a long answer again. I can't help it.
Will sections everywhere replace pages in their current format, separate from the theme editor, or will they now all be created in the theme editor?
That's a good question. Yes, so they won't be created in the theme editor. The theme editor will still exist. The theme editor is a some component of the online store admin experience. So you'll see more preview editing paradigms. I know that's like a very nuanced answer, but I think it's an important differentiation for us to make. The short is, yeah, when you edit a page, you're going to see a preview and you're going to see inputs in the sidebar, and you're going to edit it much the same way that you would edit sections today.
We're actually calling it the online store editor now internally because
Internally.
it
She's
is-
going to get mad if I say it out
Internally.
loud, yeah.
Internally.
It is an editor not just for your theme, but for all of the pages and resources of your site.
I can't believe Thibaut just tried to ship a name.
It's okay. It's fine. 20 seconds, come on.
So I'm gonna, now that we have 40 seconds on the clock, there's just one more question that I'll address because I've seen it pop up a few times on when this is being released. And obviously this is a huge investment on our part, and it's a big build.
And it's a big ask
It's
of our theme developer partners as well.
Exactly. So there's a lot of moving pieces from both a partner perspective as well as our perspective. We would like to start rolling it out this year, but it will largely be dependent on going into the fall, proximity to BFCM, and figuring out what's best for the platform at the time, for the merchants at our time, and what the right path is for our partners as well. So we promise we'll keep you in the loop on that. And we just hit time.
Cool. If you guys have any more questions, you can talk to us. We're approachable and nice humans. I swear.
Thanks,
And please
everyone.
bring us feedback. As we mentioned, this is an extensive build phase, and we're looking for all of you guys' feedback.
Thanks, everybody.